This show is part of the RetroZap.com podcast network. And welcome everybody to a Pinky and the Brain episode of the Animaniacast.
Alas, poor ghost.
Pity me not, but lend thy serious hearing to what I shall unfold.
Speak, I am bound to hear.
So art thou to revenge, when thou shalt hear...
Narf? Narf?
Never mind that.
I am your father, Luke.
Quiet, Pinky.
Sorry, Brain, but...
And welcome once again to the Animaniacast. We're the only podcast out there that exclusively talks about the animated series, Animaniacs. And you're probably asking yourself, what are we going to do tonight? Well, it's the same thing we do every night. Try to talk Pinky and the Brain. Revisiting all the cultural references and gags. And in the end, we give the episode a water tower rating. I am Joey, and joining me once again is my brother Nathan.
Hark.
And across the country in Georgia, it's Kelly.
Hello.
Well, today we are talking, I guess it's a very literature-y episode of Pinky the Brain. This is episode 51 of Pinky and the Brain. And I went ahead and skipped ahead. We've done the first, 3 episodes of Pinky and the Brain? And, I don't know, since I knew that there's probably not a chance we're going to be able to get to every single episode of Pinky and the Brain, I just said, you know what, let's just go audience choice. So, due to popular demand on Facebook and Twitter, and I think even on Instagram, people wanted to hear us talk about the Brainie the Pooh episode. So that's today's episode, episode 51, the Megalomaniacal Adventures of Brainie the Pooh and Melancholy Brain. Boy, oh boy. And tell me, guys, if someone were to ask you about this episode of Pinky and the Brain, what would you tell them, Nathan?
You don't have to read to get this literature. I don't know. Better than reading a book.
Oh, okay. There we are. And Kelly, what about you?
It had a lot of pop culture references.
It really did. And the sad thing is, there's not a lot of guides about it, is there? I mean, we usually when we do these episodes, some folks out there, years and years ago, sometimes even, have compiled lists of references and stuff that we can kind of go off of and then add our own that we notice.
Yeah, some like wikis and things like that.
But now we can be the ultimate authority.
Exactly. Now we can
just make it up. So
I am the Wikipedia. Okay. Anyway. Well,
I see what you did there.
Yes, exactly. You got to throw in a Star Wars reference or two every episode. Otherwise, we're not the Animaniacast, right? I mean, wait a minute. Anyway. Well, of course, we're talking to everybody a week after our wonderful trip to San Diego, where we went to see Animaniacs in concert.
That's right.
Yeah.
And
I heard the episode last week or whatever.
Yeah, you got to hear some interviews, the little kids and stuff that I talked to. When you and Kelly were just kind of sitting down, I was like, I'm going to go talk to some people. And I'm just...
We kept talking about how extroverted you were.
I can't be.
Like going up to... Yeah. We're like, who was on? Is that Peter Hastings? Was on stage?
Oh, yeah.
You're just like...
Is that Peter
go talk to him.
Yeah, is that Peter Hastings on stage? I think it is. I'm going to go talk to him. You guys, I don't know what Peter Hastings looks like. I'm like, I'm going to go talk to him.
I think it is him. Like, okay.
I'm going to give him a business card. Yeah, so any chance, and who knows, there might be some people listening to our show right now who learned about our show from picking up a business card in the men's room of the Balboa Theater. You never know.
The favorite place to pick up a podcast business card.
Yep. Hey, I put them in a sanitary location, somewhat above the
sanitary bin.
The sanitary bin, yes, exactly. It was so people could either pick them up or throw them in the trash. They were right above the paper towels and stuff. And of course, Nathan was very good helping with putting them out around the bar area. And people were either picking them up or the bartenders were quickly throwing them away. But either way, people were picking them up, right? So.
It's a success, yeah.
And we didn't see any laying around on the ground after we left. So
that's true.
That's a good sign.
Well, people in California are responsible, and they do throw things in the trash. So maybe that's part of the problem.
They recycled.
Yeah, they recycled it. So, oh well. Well, we hope that there's at least a few of you guys out there that are listening to our show that we may have said hello to at the Balboa Theater. And if you haven't listened to last week's episode, give it a listen. It was a lot of fun. Of course, it is concert audio. You know, it's never perfect, but I thought it came out reasonably well. You know?
It's a nice like little preview of what you would get if you went to the show.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously you wouldn't get like Jess Harnell, but that's a fun like extra treat to hear him singing.
Yeah, exactly. And Jess Harnell, I mean, if you're ever going to be at a performance of Animaniacs in concert where Jess Harnell is actually going to be there, or Maurice LaMarche, but especially Jess Harnell, because he is just a presence on stage. He's
his
a rock
voice
star.
is still like pristine, like so accurate. I don't know.
No pitching whatsoever needed for Jess Harnell. And I really feel like it's even... for whatever reason, has gotten even better compared to a few years ago when we talked to him when he was doing Wacko from time to time. I think it was like, ooh, boy, that sounds just like the episode.
Like he's been practicing or something.
Yeah, it's like he's been polishing that Wacko voice off for some reason. I don't know.
I don't know. Who knows why he would be doing that, though. Yeah,
but that's the funny thing, though. You know, just speaking of it real quickly, is that I've seen some YouTube videos and some people online just commenting about how, oh, you know, I don't think Tress MacNeille and Rob Paulson and Jess Harnell, they can't do the voices anymore. Their voices are so old and everything. And number one, it's like, I've heard them, and no, they're pretty much the same. And number two, when you go back to actually, like, we've gone back and listened to those early episodes even, they were pitching their voices. Yeah. Like, Dot's voice was pitched, and, you know, Wacko and Yakko's voice was pitched, and there's not going to be any problem, I don't think, in this new series of them sounding the way they should be. You know, there might be a little.
I was reading something the other day about the young lady who was the live model and the voice of Alice from Disney's Alice in Wonderland. And she was also the voice of Wendy and Peter Pan. And she actually did, I think it was the Alice voice again. I want to say for Kingdom Hearts, or you know, for one of the games, in her 60s.
Wow!
And I don't have confirmation. It was just something I read online, but I think it's true. It seems like I've heard it somewhere else.
Might even
before.
Be older than her 60s if she did Wendy back in 1950. Whatever, she must be in her 70s or something like that, at least, right?
Yeah, I mean, it could have been one of the earlier games.
That's true.
I mean, that franchise, Kingdom Hearts, is pretty old, if that's the one it was.
Yeah.
But I don't have a perfect recollection of what I read. I just remember being like, wow, and it said that she still sounded very much the same. So you never know. I mean, age doesn't necessarily change the voice that much. I mean, as long as you don't smoke, kids.
Yeah, don't smoke.
Yeah.
Or vape. You vapors. Anyway. Well, let's go ahead and get into today's discussion of today's episode. Nathan, tell us, when did this episode of Pinky and the Brain premiere?
Okay, so this actually premiered February 7th, 1998, which was a Saturday. It was just a day after Blues Brothers 2000 was released in theaters. And the Washington National Airport was renamed Ronald Reagan National Airport. And Muppets Tonight ended its second and final season.
Aww.
So, there you go. Yeah.
Muppets never got a break, really, after Jim Henson's death. Even towards the end, I've been watching these YouTube videos about, and I think they're called Defunct Land, I believe. And just Jim Henson didn't get a lot of breaks after the Muppet Show. It seems like in a lot, but especially after he passed, it seems like every Muppet Show that's been on just never seems to get the right steam, and then it's just gone.
Because the heart is gone.
Yeah, in some ways.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even and the thing is, I remember Muppets Tonight. It did have Frank Oz involved in the series, but very rarely. The Miss Piggy was almost in like just a few episodes per season, and I missed Miss Piggy. I wanted to see her and Fozzie and stuff like that involved. So, but yeah, Muppets Tonight I think was a decent Muppet show.
I liked it.
Yeah.
It had a fun theme song. It was guaranteed brand new episodes, and then I think that's why they had to cancel the show because people started suing them when they showed reruns. I assume.
Really?
Well, I mean, it says in the theme song, every episode guaranteed brand new.
That's true.
So I assume they had to start paying a lot of money out when people were like, "This wasn't a new episode."
Tonight, we got a show for you, guaranteed brand new. Here come the Muppets tonight, yeah!
Oh man, I forgot about that lyric, Nathan. But after you just mentioned that, I remember us getting very upset at that when Clifford would say "guaranteed brand new," right? Yeah.
Yep.
I forgot about Clifford. He sort of disappeared.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not really around anymore.
Well, yeah, I think the Mr. Clash behind the puppet had some problems we're not going to get into. Well, yeah. So Muppets Tonight, good series, and of course, hey, Nathan, you mentioned Blues Brothers 2000, and not a very good movie, but soundtrack was good. Remember the soundtrack?
I saw it too. I remember seeing the movie.
Do you know who was in the original Blues Brothers?
Well, Frank Oz. Yeah.
Besides that, though.
I believe there's a guy in a building towards the end. I can't really remember his name, though. Who was it?
Steven Spielberg.
That's right. Now I remember. Yeah, Steven Spielberg actually acted in that movie.
Yeah.
It was
that's literally maybe one of two scenes I've ever seen of the movie because I've never seen the movie, but I've seen Steven Spielberg's part.
It's too bad. I don't think Spielberg came back for the sequel. Frank Oz did, but I don't think Spielberg did. Anyway.
I don't think so.
Well, let's go ahead and get into our discussion here. Starting off with, maybe I can say it correctly this time, the I can't do it. The
Megalomaniacal?
Yeah, Megalomaniacal, yeah. Adventures of Brainie the Pooh.
This is Maurice LaMarche, the voice of the brain, and you are listening to the Animaniacast.
And the blah 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 Adventures of Brainie the Pooh was directed by Charles Vizier, and it was written by Patrick M. Verone. And Kelly, why don't you tell us what happens here in Brainie the Pooh?
Well, it's sort of a ripoff. Well, it is a ripoff of Winnie the Pooh, of course. And it takes place in Acme Woods. And Brain is Winnie the Pooh, but he's Brainie the Pooh. And Pinky is Pinklet, so he's like Piglet, and he wears a little scarf. And Brain decides he wants to take over the world, of course, and his idea this time is to replace all of the basically fake sugar with real sugar, real sweetener, and so that everybody becomes fat and toothless and slow.
As you know, people in today's body-conscious society are obsessed with losing weight. My plan is to secretly replace all the artificial sweeteners in the world with real ones, thus rendering the world's population fat, slow-moving, and completely toothless.
You mean like the guests on Jerry Springer?
Exactly, Pinklet.
And but then he says that real sugar is actually too expensive to replace it with, so he's going to use honey. And he knows where he can get honey. It's at the top of a tree. But it's a really blousery day. And he says that's not even a real word, but sort of like, Winnie the Pooh and the blustery day, or what is it called? Piglet and the blustery, one of those blustery day stories. And he says, who's the most intimidating bee in the beehive? And Pinky's like, Bea Arthur. And he's like, no, the queen bee. And no, that's not Beyonce. It's the queen bee of the beehive. And so...
Beyonce?
Like that would be the joke nowadays. Yeah, it would be Beyonce, not Bea Arthur.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, it would. And so he's trying to, devise a plan to get to the top of the beehive, and Jagger comes bouncing in, and it's not Tigger, it's Jagger, like Mick Jagger, and those lips, he's got some lips on him.
Now why don't you go gather some moss while I figure out a way to get to the top of that tree?
Well, why didn't you say so, mate? I'll get you up there quicker than you can say collagen injection.
No, thank you. That won't be...
And so he puts Brain in, like, the inside of his mouth and shoots him off like a slingshot. And but the wind comes, the blousery wind, and blows him off course. And then he gets stuck in Rabbit's hole.
There is far too much violence in this story.
And which was one of the cutest Pooh stories, was when Pooh got stuck in the hole, and because he ate too much honey.
Yeah.
And it was so cute. And I think I had that little golden book. I remember little golden books.
Yeah, we used to have a lot of those golden books, and we even had the Disney Choose Your Own Adventure books too.
Oh.
Which I saw one of those at the used bookstore recently, and I almost picked it up because. It was just 1980s Choose Your Own Adventure, but with Disney characters. And
oh, wow.
And some of it, nobody dies like in the actual Choose Your Own Adventure books, but sometimes bad things happen to Dumbo or something. Like there are sad endings to the Choose Your Own Adventure books.
Not cool, Disney.
Yeah, not cool.
So, Brain's stuck, and he noticed, or Pinky actually noticed, that anytime he said Narf, his head shrunk a little bit. So he starts saying Narf, poit, and his head shrinks enough for Pinky to pull him out of the hole. And he's like, that explains a lot, because those are the things that Pinky says all the time. And so we finally got out of the hole. And then they run across Algore, who's Eeyore, and he keeps talking and not really paying attention to them. And so he's full of hot air.
Algore is full of hot air. We shall use him to levitate us to the upper stratosphere.
As we cross the bridge, we have built to stand upon a platform built by contributions the president
Oh, we're finally going back to Kansas. I think I was the scarecrow most of all.
Wrong book, Pinklet.
Oh.
Yes, Pinklet. We're almost there.
It is Bea Arthur.
Discussed other topics relating to the resources needed to
She stings the Brain, and he's like, ow. And then all the bees attack Algore, and starts being deflated. And so then they blow into the narrator's den, and into another story. And I swear, once I saw the house in the book, I was like, I know that house. I know that image. And it's the house from Gone with the Wind, Tara. And y'all know I live in Georgia, so we all know about Gone with the Wind here. And then the next scene is Pinky and the Brain, or I guess they're still Brainie and Pinklet. But Pinky's dressed like Scarlett O'Hara in this big poofy white dress. And Brain looks like kind of like Rhett Butler.
Brain, where will we go? And what will we do?
Frankly, my dear Pinky, I don't give a...
Pinky, they're Pinky and the Pooh, 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 Pooh.
Pooh.
And that's the end.
There we go. Yeah, I was just actually looking at the frame of them as Rhett and Scarlet, and they're not there. They actually changed colors, and they have fingers and everything like they normally do when they're not stuffed animals. So they actually get turned into living mice.
Oh,
at the end.
I forgot about Christopher.
Yeah, I was going to mention that.
Talk about let's talk about Christopher. Not Christopher Robin, but who's the Christopher in this one?
Christopher Walken.
Yes.
He's terrifying.
It really is a very creepy scene. Is this Rob Paulsen doing the Christopher Walken at the end? I'm not exactly sure. Let me just check the credits here. But this is Rob Paulsen did a great Christopher Walken just at Animaniacs in concert.
Yeah, it was apparently Jeff Bennett who also did Jagger.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, we'll see. I mean, he's not credited in the end credits, so it's kind of hard to tell. But I mean, every voice actor has their their version of Christopher Walken. I think that's part of the job. If you're going to be a voice actor, whether male or female, you have to do your Christopher Walken impression. It's just,
Do your Christopher Walken impression.
I'm not a voice actor. No, I used to do the Christopher Walken of Kevin Spacey as Christopher Walken for the Fast Ship. You never heard of the Millennium Falcon? It's the ship that made the Kessel Run in less than 12 parsecs. She's fast enough for you, old man. That sucked. Anyway.
No, it was good.
No, yeah, but that's how
it is. Yeah, so that's my Christopher Walken impression. Kevin Spacey, another great guy, huh? Anyway, try not to mention these people's names anymore. Well, let's talk about some of the references and stuff like that in this, and then we'll get into some of the moments that we thought were really cool in this Pinky and the Brain first cartoon. So number one, they mention this is this Vivisection Lab. Might look like any other Vivisection Lab or something along those lines. And I had to go, what is a Vivisection Lab? Well, Viva
I know.
Is what is it, Kelly?
Carving up people.
Essentially, Viva is, well, we all know dissection, right? It's when you're opening up somebody that's dead, or something that's dead. Well, vivisection is when you're opening up something that's still alive. So, yeah, gross.
Yeah, I did a report on that in Victorian literature, because we had to do something about contemporary of the time, Victorian society, and apparently that's, I guess, sort of when vivisection started becoming a thing. I guess they were getting, science was becoming a lot more popular and stuff.
Yeah, well, you had to see how things actually moved around, I suppose, and pumped stuff, and well, that's one way to figure it out.
I think they did frogs a lot.
Yeah. So, this Christopher Walken's Vivisection Lab is pretty, it's pretty disturbing when they pan past all the different, crazy things in that room. In fact, I even saw a decapitated Mickey Mouse head on one of the... Yeah, there's a Mickey Mouse head that's just sitting on one of the tables right there.
It's a dark cartoon.
It is.
Yeah, well, that opening, especially with all the meat cleavers and
it looks like a Frankenstein's monster version of Pinky, and
they definitely took his brain out at one point, and then sewed it back up. So it looked very it started off very dark. Luckily, the episode changed. The only disturbing thing after that was really, there's Christopher Walken and Jagger, but we'll get to them in a second. They're both pretty. But then they say churlish, or he says they're often churly, and he goes, the word is churlish. And that just sounded like, I thought churlish, I didn't even think that was a real word. That sounded like something on like South Park when they're making fun of Medea or something like that. Like
it means greedy, right?
It means rude in a spirited and surly way is what I saw. And they also said that he likes to grouse, I believe. Grouse is to complain. So, yeah.
That's kind of British kind of word, I think.
Yes. And of course, it's these connections to to Winnie the Pooh. I think it's like instead of the Megalomaniacal adventures, what is it? The many adventures of Winnie the Pooh, right?
I think so.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah, so I can say many. I can't say that other word. Instead of the thinking spot, it's the pondering spot, which I mean, it's cute. It makes sense.
Cute.
Tyne Daly and Shelley Long are mentioned when Pinky sees this little flow chart of a silhouette of a bigger woman and a skinny woman right there, and Tyne Daly was she is a bigger boned woman, right? And then of course Shelley Long, a very skinny woman, and Tyne Daly. What did you put down? What is she from, Nathan? Again?
Cagney and Lacey. I never saw it, but Judging Amy was more recent. She was on that for many years.
And Shelley Long was
Shelley Long. I know better.
Yeah.
Well, I know her from the Brady Bunch movies.
Yeah, the Brady Bunch movie, which those movies are fantastic.
The mom in those. So,
let's see. The brain puts himself as a smog cloud instead of rain cloud. I'm a little sad that he didn't sing a song about being a smog cloud.
Yeah.
But there were some good songs, including the wonderful song right here by Jagger. Of course, Jagger comes out and immediately pounces on the brain, and Pinky says,
Hey, you! Get off of my smog!
Sorry, mate, no requests.
And if you know anything about the Rolling Stones, you of course know that is a reference to, hey, you, get off of my cloud. And I thought that was a line that made me chuckle. Because
That's good. I missed it. I totally missed it.
I got it, and I heard it, and I laughed, and my wife looked at me and said, what? So, but perhaps the most... this is the very weird reference here that's in the song to Adnan Khashoggi. And he was a Saudi Arabian businessman, and he died a couple years ago. And we were mentioning how he, before we started recording, how he actually has some connections to some other famous people, apparently, who have also died in one way or another. So
in mysterious ways.
In mysterious ways, yeah. So we have, who were the two people once again, Kelly?
Well, according to Wikipedia, he's the uncle of Dodi Fayed, who, of course, died in the Paris car accident with Princess Diana. And also Jamal Khashoggi, who was the journalist that was recently murdered.
Yeah, so interesting the connections right there to, modern day or at least contemporary people as well. Now there was an Algore. I mean, the Algore. I guess there's kids out there that wouldn't know who Algore is, but boy, that one was just hit you over the head with that reference right there.
They didn't really change his name. I guess technically it was Algore's one word instead of Al Gore's.
Yeah, instead of Eeyore, it's Al Gore. Like, okay, I get it.
But it's so similar to the name that.
Yes. But the whole Christopher Walken lines, where he's talking about riding his bike.
Brainie, let me confess something. I tell you this because, as a megalomaniacal genius, I think you'll understand.
Well, actually, we have to get some honey from it.
Sometimes when I'm riding my bike around dusk, and I see the two rotating reflectors of another bike coming towards me, I have this sudden impulse to swerve into this oncoming bike. I can anticipate the horrible skid, the sound of my bell hitting the pavement, the milk flowing out of the carton all over the bread that my mom asked me to pick up at the store.
It's dark.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Nathan, of course, the main reference with all that speech was to what?
Annie Hall. Was that his first movie?
I believe so. That's what
earliest movie I know of him.
Yeah, I remember watching that movie, and our parents said, "Oh, this was Christopher Walken's first movie," which to me sounds a little like, really? Like I thought he was doing stuff before then. But if you watch Annie Hall, he is very young in that movie, and he talks about driving into incoming traffic, and with that Christopher Walken's character type was set in stone of what kind of characters he would be playing for the rest of his life.
Can I confess something? I tell you this because, as an artist, I think you'll understand. Sometimes when I'm driving on the road at night, I see two headlights coming toward me. Fast, I have this sudden impulse to turn the wheel quickly, head on into the oncoming car. I can anticipate the explosion, the sound of shattering glass, the flames rising out of the flowing gasoline.
Right. Well, I have to go now, Dwayne, because I'm due back on the planet Earth.
Well, I'd love to listen to more psychotic ramblings, but I've got to fly up a tree.
So,
He was in a movie with Sean Patrick Flannery.
which movie was that? Oh, wait, no. I think I might know. No, I don't. What?
Suicide Kings.
I see. I do have that on. I have that on DVD. I
do too.
I have him wrapped up. I'm like, he's wrapped up, right? He's tied up on a chair.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and Henry Thomas from E.T. is in it as well.
See, that's a funny movie. I need to watch that.
It
again.
is. It's dark and it's funny, and I don't like the ending so much, but it's a good
Well,
movie.
I haven't watched. It's a good time to rewatch old movies I haven't seen in many years. I just watched Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure for the first time in like 15 years last night,
Oh my gosh, I need to rewatch those.
and I enjoyed it quite a bit. It was very funny.
I should point out that it's probably not his first movie. It looks like on IMDb there's a couple movies that
it was his
precede
first
Annie Hall.
It was
First
probably his,
known movie?
yeah, probably his
It's
first
still-
big movie, right?
And it's still, yeah, I would think so. But his role in it is still pretty small. He only has that one scene.
It's a very memorable scene, though, right?
Yeah, it's very memorable, but not. He doesn't have a bunch of lines in the movie or
No,
anything.
he's just like Annie
pretty
Hall's
much this-
brother, I think, is the scene.
Annie Hall's brother, and he's in that one scene, I think.
Like, drive them home,
Maybe
and then
two
he's...
scenes, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he's
Yeah,
only
the-
in like one scene in Pulp Fiction, but that's also a pretty memorable scene.
He's a memorable kind of guy.
Yeah, he was just a very funny voice. But yeah, he did a bunch of TV shows before that, and 2 or 3 movies before that one. But
Well, just as contrast and compare, let's contrast and compare a few of the songs that we have. Of course, we have the opening song with Brainie the Pooh.
Brainie the Pooh.
Stop.
Brainie the Pooh.
Must you sing?
Surly, often churly, he loves to grouse.
The word is churlish.
Brainie the Pooh.
What is this poo business?
Brainie the Pooh. Power crazed and bittered old mouse.
And then we have the Winnie the Pooh song.
Winnie the Pooh, Winnie the Pooh, tubby little cubby all stuffed with fluff. He's Winnie the Pooh, Winnie the Pooh, willy-nilly silly old bear.
Later we have the Jagger Song.
The wonderful thing about Jagger is that I'm still swinging my hips. I can prowl on the stage like a cat half my age, and I have my original lips. I'm richer than Agnan Khashoggi. My records are platinum, not gold. But the grooviest thing about Jagger is I'm really, really old.
Yes, very entertaining.
And then we have the Tigger Song.
The wonderful thing about Tiggers is Tiggers are wonderful things. Their tops are made out of rubber, their bottoms are made out of strings. They're bouncy, flouncy, flouncy, pouncy, fun, 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 fun. But the most wonderful thing about Tiggers is I'm the only one. I'm the only one.
So, those two songs, I thought the again, just expert work of the composers. I think the Bernsteins worked a little more on the Pinky the Brain than Richard Stone, but whoever did this one, I mean, obviously, excellent job of taking the basic tune and then twisting it here and there. There's also some stuff to Wizard of Oz, and floating
Alex
away.
Trebek.
Alex Trebek, which was a very weird line. Talk about a noodle.
yeah.
And Pierce Brosnan. I love this line.
Are you pondering what I'm pondering?
I think so, Brainie. But why would anyone want to Pierce Brosnan?
As remarkable as this fact may be, Pinklet, you've missed the point.
Pierce Brosnan, of course, is, back then that he was 007 at this point. So yeah, James Bond. Another thing that there was the author of Brainie the Pooh, who instead of A.A. Milne was, what was it again? A.A. Meeting.
A.A. Meeting. Yep.
Yeah. A.A. Meeting, of course, Alcoholics Anonymous, right there.
Yeah, I didn't get it right away until I started writing A.A. Meeting, and I'm like, I wonder what this is. Oh, it's Alcoholics.
That's it for all the references, but what were some of the things that you guys thought were humorous or cool or of note? Nathan, let's start with you.
I liked the style. I think everything like that. It's very much like Winnie the Pooh, where it looks like you're in a book, so you can see like the text around them that they're saying.
Did you read any of the text, by the way?
Some of it, above their heads.
It's not written very well. I have to tell you, it's a lot of it is very like almost like the brain points up, but it's almost as if it's stage notes or something like that. Like the brain points to the top of the tree and says, and then what he says is not in quotes or anything like that. But I did like the fact that
I'm guessing that's how they wrote the episode.
Yeah, exactly. I almost thought like, did they just take like the animation notes and just paste them into the book?
That works.
Yeah, whatever. But yeah, I agree though that seeing that style, and I always thought that was a cool part of the original Winnie the Pooh books. Were either of you fans of the actual cartoons, the original cartoons of Winnie the Pooh?
Yeah. I mean, I saw some.
Yeah, I saw some too. I liked them. I mean, I didn't dislike them. I just didn't watch them a lot.
Yeah, they're not. To me, they're not the most exciting Disney movies, but they were good for, I think, as a kid, or at least I could see them being good as a parent, like my dad. Just like, we're going to watch this part of Winnie the Pooh and Tigger 2, but just this one, 15-minute section, before we get ready for bed. You're not going to watch the whole film. You're just going to watch this one part where we left off yesterday. So I do remember that as a kid. But, Winnie the Pooh's, of course, I think a lot of people got introduced to Winnie the Pooh through the Saturday morning TV series, which was, of course, put on, I think it was on ABC originally, and then, of course, just reruns for many, many years on Disney Channel. And Winnie the Pooh has been puppets at one point, and he's even been I remember when I was a kid watching the Disney Channel in the mid 80s, they were actually full size people in costumes with mouths that moved.
Was that the House on Pooh Corner?
Yeah, House on Pooh Corner, and I really liked that show. I know that I show it to some people today, and they're like, "Oh my god, how creepy!" But at the time, sure, when you put your adult glasses on, it's kind of creepy. But at the time, I thought it was really, really cool.
It was like no creepy than Zoobly Zoo.
Yeah, exactly. And it had what I liked about Pooh Corner was that you got to see the narrator each episode, and he introduced them, and he looked very friendly. And I guess that gets us into the narrator of today's Brainie the Pooh was John Rhys Davies returns to the show, and I didn't realize it was his voice. I feel terrible that
I didn't either.
Yeah, I didn't know.
Yeah, so Sala, of
and
course.
I've met him twice in person.
Yeah, I have not met him in person, but I do have a hilarious autograph of it shows Sala pulling a camel, and he drew a little arrow to the camel, and it says "Not me" above the camel, and a little arrow above Sala, and he put an arrow to it, and it says "Me." And then
Didn't you win that?
I did, from the Bearded Trio.
We love the Bearded Trio.
Yes, and they're so awesome. So I was so happy. I got it all the way from England. Yay. Anyway. Well, so yeah, John Rhys Davies, love him. So it was nice to have him as the narrator in this. But Kelly, what were any things that you thought were interesting or a note that you haven't mentioned already?
I like the line where the brain makes a comment about Pinky's scarf being too tight and basically like strangling the intelligence from him or something, to paraphrase.
Yeah. And there was a weird thing about fruit flies in this one too, about dressing the fruit flies as milkmaids, the most convoluted plan. I thought the Brain's plans were bad, but boy, oh boy, Pinky has even worse plans.
It's funny how circular like reasoning or whatever, like all we need to do is get the honey, and then we can use that to get the honey.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, well, how do we get the honey? Well, we need to. I don't know. And and also the fact that honey is supposed to be cheaper than sugar. It's like, it's actually not. It's just more convenient for you to be in an area where there happens to be honey. But yes.
And I feel like nowadays, like, I don't know, like California, people don't want artificial sweeteners. They
yes,
they would prefer honey over an artificial sweetener, I'm sure.
Yes, definitely. And there's, well, anyway. That is that. Very, very funny one. I'm glad that people recommended it, because I enjoyed this first segment quite a bit. And I don't think I've ever seen it before. So
it was new to me.
I haven't.
Yeah, it was new screen. I've seen screenshots. I knew there was Christopher Walken in this one. But I'll tell you, when Jagger came out, which, by the way, Nathan, you put in the show notes, Jagger is a jaguar, and I had no idea. I was like, oh, yeah, he has spots, not stripes, like Tigger.
Oh, you didn't? Okay, I thought that was obvious.
No, it wasn't obvious to me at all. I was just more distracted with those weird collagen-inflated lips of his.
Yeah.
Very creepy performance. But again, I noticed just how every time they were just like, we don't want to get sued by Disney, so instead of bouncing on his tail, he just bounces on his butt around the place. It was very, very funny and cute the whole way through. But we're not done yet, because we have another segment to get to, and it is called the Melancholy Brain. And the Melancholy Brain was written by Gordon Bressick and Patrick M. Verone, and it was directed by Charles Visser. And Nathan, tell us what happens here in the Melancholy Brain.
All right. We open on a castle in Denmark, and it's spooky, and there's a ghost on the castle, and he's talking to this guy, and the guy's name's Hamlet, and the ghost is like, oh, you have to avenge me, and then he's like, narf, and then it turns out that Brain and Pinky are just wearing a giant, night suit, and they're pretending to be Hamlet's dead father as a ghost, so it's not so scary. And they tell him that basically, Hamlet, you have been murdered by your uncle, and you have to avenge me. And then he falls off the castle, and then we find out that the whole reason this is happening is because Brain is going to cause some havoc in Denmark. So basically, he's going to convince Hamlet that the uncle killed his father, and then he's going to get the uncle also mad at Hamlet, and this will cause such chaos that he can take over the castle, and then he'll start a whole IKEA thing, I guess.
First Denmark, Pinky, then all of Scandinavia. I will begin my plan for world domination by opening large stores filled with flimsy, impossible-to-assemble wooden furniture. Frustrated millions, their minds weakened by years of following nonsensical instructions, will automatically follow these instructions. 1. Insert tab B into slot A. 2. Insert tab A into slot C. 3. Obey the brain.
No! And that will be his plan to take over Scandinavia, I think.
Yeah.
So we cut back to the castle, and we find out that Hamlet's planning on putting up a little play for the king. And so Brain's like, oh, this isn't going to work at all. So the Brain decides to write his own play for Hamlet, and it's called The Fat Stinky King, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Big Fat Stinky King. And basically, it's about how big and fat and stinky the king is.
Say you, damsel, that I am stinky?
Hark!
And big and fat.
And I a king, imagine that. Like some other king, methinks, whose hugeness is rotund.
And stinks. Stinky, stinky, big and fat. A stinky king, a stinky king. Oh, stinky king, not small and thin. Oh, stink.
Enough! Away!
And the king gets upset and walks out of the play. And Hamlet's like, I didn't write that. And then Brains decides that he needs to also let the queen know that they're going to usurp her power or something. That both the king and Hamlet are plotting against her, just to add some extra something or other. But then Hamlet walks in, so the brain hides behind a curtain, and then Hamlet hears some noise, and he's like, "What? Oh, what? A rat!" And then they're practically rats; they're mice. So he knocks him out of the window when he tries to stab him, and they fall into a graveyard where you see a little skull, like very reminiscent of a Hamlet. And then we cut back inside, and Hamlet's there, and he's like, "Aha! You have been causing trouble to us happy Danes or something." And Brain's like, "Happy?" And then they have a little fight, and then Brain gets stabbed, and he dies. He has this whole speech, and he dies.
Ah! I am justly killed with mine own treachery. I am dead, Pinky. Adieu. Adieu. Pinky. In this harsh world, draw thy breath in pain to tell my story. Oh, I die, Pinky. The rest is silence.
Good night, sweet Brain.
But then the director's like, "Cut. This isn't working at all." And then Billy Shakespeare, sorry, you're going to have to cut the mice out of this play. So then Pinky and the Brain are walking out, and they're like, "Oh, shoot, well, what are we going to do tomorrow?" And they're like, "Well, same thing we do every night, try to take over the Globe Theater." And then they walk back into the theater that they just exited or something. So that's how it is.
Did they really walk back into the theater? I missed
so.
that part. Okay, well, they're very proactive. They're going to get. They don't stick around. Whatever. Anyway, well, that was our episode. And of course, if you have never read Hamlet, well, you must not be in high school yet, because it's just I can't think of anybody who hasn't read Hamlet by the time they've gotten out of high school. If you have, then. Have not, I should say, then what's wrong with your high school? You should go back to them and write them a letter and say they didn't do it right.
Just watch a movie. Mel Gibson.
Oh, yeah, sure. Well,
it's fine. Like, that one's fine.
Sure, I've never seen it. I just, anytime somebody mentions Mel Gibson, I either think of Dot fawning over him or just how insane he is, and just
and all the problems that he has.
Exactly, and how
he should not be acting still.
Exactly. But anyway, so the title right away, did anybody understand why it was called The Melancholy Brain?
Is that a reference to Hamlet?
Yes, because I had to look it up myself. Actually, I wrote Hamlet, and then I started typing in the melancholy, and apparently,
isn't it from the to be or not to be speech?
No, I don't think so, because I think it's often Hamlet is referred to as being the melancholy Dane. So yeah, because he's Danish. So yeah,
well, it has been a while since I read it.
Yeah, but it's I just thought that was a cute little thing. That thanks to the internet, now I can know exactly what the writers were talking about when they called it the Melancholy Brain. But it's like Nathan was saying, it was very close to the plot line of Hamlet. I actually thought they were going to make Pinky and the Brain a little bit more like Rosencrantz and Guildenstern.
Yeah, I kept waiting for that to happen. Because because that would make a lot of sense.
Yeah, because there's the play, of course, Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead, which just kind of takes place. It just follows Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, who are very minor parts in the play Hamlet, but kind of like goes over.
They get killed.
Yeah,
basically.
Well, before they get
off stage.
Yeah, they just a messenger comes in and tells the Hamlet Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead, and
I think so. Yeah,
that's pretty much it. But you do see them early in the play for one short scene.
Well, yeah, they're Hamlet's really good friends.
They're they're like kind of joking around guys, right? They're like nice guys.
My wife actually played Rosencrantz or Guildenstern. I can't remember which one. They're female friends. So
okay. So yeah, but they didn't go that way. By the way, of course, hey, Hamlet. Let's talk about another thing that's had a connection to recent things, right? And that, of course, is The Lion King is out in theaters right now. So kind of a Hamlet connection right there. And I know, Kelly, you've seen The Lion King.
Yeah.
I saw The Lion King as well. Nathan, did you see it yet?
I did too. It's so not good.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
Thank you.
I think all three of us are in agreement then. Yeah.
It was just not worth seeing. They should just have never made it. I don't know what the point was.
No point.
There was nothing.
How can you redo a movie almost shot for shot and leave out the best parts?
And I
don't know.
There was no expressiveness of the characters, and it really, it was Charles M. Howell IV, who we've had on a previous show. A great interview. We should have him on in the future to talk about Pinky and the Brain, since he had a big hand in these episodes. But he put on his Facebook page that Walt Disney would have never been successful if Mickey Mouse was drawn realistically, you know?
Right? And people don't go to see these movies to...
Yeah, it's just because it can be realistic doesn't mean it should be. And like you said, it's like there was nothing wrong with The Lion King to begin with, and especially it's like they didn't add anything to it.
And they took away things.
They took away a lot of good things, and they didn't add anything.
Ed.
For example,
they took away Ed.
Well, anyway, so that's that. That's our.
And they
quick
made
review.
all these. They made references to the cartoon where it's like, they expect you to have seen the better cartoon already. Anyway,
like what was the cartoon? What parts of the?
Well,
cartoon?
they make like they're doing fart and poop jokes now, which is something that Disney's usually been above. I don't know.
Yeah,
that bothered me too. I mean that.
Okay, we should just go on. We should do this
the first time you did it.
Yeah. Well,
we should do a whole episode just on how bad
The Lion King.
Well, you can read my review on BigShinyRobot.com.
There we are.
Yay,
if you
there
want
we
to
go.
know more, go to that. So, anyway, yeah, Hamlet. Back to him. I didn't know who was doing the voice of Hamlet. But Kelly knew, and my wife knew. And Nathan, did you know off the top of your head?
No, I didn't know. I'm sure my wife would have known if I made her watch it.
Well, Kelly, tell us who did the voice of Hamlet?
Well, after he said a couple lines, I was like, wait, I know that voice. And it took only like a second longer, and I was like, that's Carrie Elways. And so I had to make sure I watched to the end of the credits and paused on the screen where all the names came up, and sure enough, it's Carrie Elways.
And if you don't know who he is, well, if you haven't seen The Princess Bride, one of the finest films ever, he's Wesley. So, yes.
He was also in this last season of Stranger Things.
Yeah, he was the mayor. He was really good in that, too, and doing kind of the American voice.
He looks good.
Yeah, he looks a lot better than he did in Psych. He was a little chubby in Psych in the show.
Oh.
Well, I mean, he's never been a chubby guy, but he looked better.
Well, he was almost unrecognizable to me in Saw.
I've never seen Saw.
It was good.
You don't see Saw?
Seesaw.
You see Saw. Saw 3 is also really good because Sean Patrick Flannery is in it. I think it's Saw 3. But anyways, Carrie Elways is in Saw, and I almost didn't even know it was him when I saw that. But I mean, maybe that was the way it was supposed to be. You know,
Well, he's looking good now, and I can speak from experience. He's a very nice person. I met him at Phoenix Comic-Con one year and got an autograph.
With him, yeah.
Yeah, I got a selfie with him, and he was just a really nice guy. So always nice. Always nice when celebrities are actually nice. And we won't get into one of Kelly's experiences recently with one celebrity, but
look, all I'm going to say is if you're going to charge $95 for an autograph and you're a voice actor, you could at least personalize the picture.
Yeah, enough said. We're not going to give out who that is.
No names.
No names. Saying. You know who you are, voice actor who listens to our show.
He's listening right now.
No.
He or she is listening right now.
I'll say something else about Carrie Elwes, though, and because I've been at several conventions he's been to now, and he always has like a separate little area for where he meets people. Did he do that at Phoenix Comic-Con?
I think so. They kind of
so you get like a personalized interaction with him.
Yeah, they kind of tent off the table a little bit for him.
Yeah.
Which was cool. And he didn't, and that way you could get be really kind of personal and get your picture with him for a few more bucks, but he didn't charge an enormous amount or anything like that.
He had the longest line at Knoxville Comic Con a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, he really appreciates his fans, and that's really awesome. Anyway, they mention a Star Wars reference with I am your father, Luke. Which that's not the line. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. See, that's why I was in the notes. I didn't put that as a Star Wars because that's not a Star Wars quote.
Yeah. So. Nathan put down in the show notes. Is he talking about Luke Perry?
Perry's father, I'm assuming.
My sister and I got in an argument about that one time, and she's like, "Kelly, it is Luke. I am your father." I'm like, "No, it's not."
No,
and she's like, "No, it is." I'm like, "Are you seriously arguing with me?"
They're just taking it off of Tommy Boy.
About
I am your
Star
father.
Wars, and I'm like, you dare to argue with me about Star Wars? And I finally had to find I don't know how I proved it to her finally because we were in the swimming pool, but I'm like, no, I'm right, and she finally had to acknowledge it. But it's like, when are people going to learn? Don't argue with me about Star Wars.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so
don't do it.
Don't you do it. There was a double whammy of a reference with the Pete Rose there too.
Wait a minute, Pinky, art thou pondering that which I am pondering?
Methinks so, Brain, verily. But dost thou think Pete Rose by any other name would still smell as sweaty?
With Pete Rose, of course, was a disgraced baseball player. He gambled, and he, at least for right now, I don't think he can be allowed into the not the Basketball Hall of Fame, but the Baseball Hall of Fame. Either one, probably, when you think about it. He was not a very good basketball player, but the whole smell is sweet was turned into smell is sweaty for Pete Rose, and
Clive Revel.
Clive Revel, the original voice of the Emperor, was doing the voice of the King. And I believe Clive Revel also did the voice of Alfred in Batman the Animated Series. And I believe Clive Revel is still around and signing stuff at conventions from here or there. So anyway.
And the voice of the Queen is Olivia Hussey, and I was like, oh, I know that name. And I had to think back, but that's the actress who played Juliet in Franco Zeffirelli's Romeo and Juliet, which is a famous movie from the late 70s, I think.
Yeah, which I've seen, and there's or
maybe earlier than that.
Yeah, maybe earlier. I think it was in the 60s, actually, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Where she was in
We watched it in school, but I think we watched an edited version.
Yeah, we did not watch the edited version of it, so at one point I think there's some nudity on the part of Juliet, if I'm not mistaken. And our language arts teacher forgot to fast forward that part, and I didn't see anything because I was bored and looking out the window or something like that, but I just heard everybody in the class go, "What?" Well, any other things we want to talk about Melancholy Brain about?
I just really liked how much they took direct from Shakespeare. Pretty much everything Hamlet said was directly lines from the play, and really Gertrude and everyone. I don't know. I'm just really impressed by that. And then there was lots of the to be or not to.
The to be bells. I didn't see where they were going with that until it happened, and then I was like, ah.
As soon as he said it's to be, and then he said it's not to, and then I'm like, I got it.
Look at this huge tubey bell, Brain.
Never mind about that. And it's not a tubey bell, it's a tubular bell.
It's Tubi.
It is not Tubi.
To be or not to be? That is the question.
Narf.
Oh, you see that? He's as confused as I am.
No one is as confused as you are. He's mad.
Well, he should learn to control his anger.
He's not angry mad, he's crazy mad.
Oh, I hope he's not mad at me.
No, I'm mad at you.
Stupidity, thy name is Pinky. It's a little reference.
Instead of what's that again, Nathan?
It's frailty, thy name is woman, and he's yelling at his mom, and he's basically saying that all women are frail. But
by the way, Hamlet in the actual play, he's a jerk. He's kind of
he's
not the nicest.
You don't
guy.
even know if he's really crazy or if he's just pretending to be crazy. I think it's a little of both, but he's because he's definitely putting on extra craziness to make the king think that he's crazy. I don't know. He has this weird.
But yeah, I remember having those debates in high school. Did he really see his dad or not? And that's one of the things.
Well,
that just makes
other people were seeing this ghost as well, besides just Hamlet. But maybe they were just joking or whatever.
Yeah, or
maybe they were
mass hallucination.
With Hamlet.
Yeah.
Well, they're the ones that saw it first, and then Hamlet. We keep seeing a ghost.
They're messing with him, and then
yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah, and then Ophelia, right? That's the girlfriend. She's all weird.
And to a nunnery. He's so mean to her in that play.
Yeah, he's all negging her.
Yeah, but not in a good, not even good. It's just
no.
But yeah, no, it's a really good play if you haven't seen it. But also, this is just the whole introducing speech that Brain and Hamlet are doing are direct quotes from Shakespeare, other than "Where's my pants" and stuff like that.
We're gonna have to have some post commentary discussion just for later on, Nathan. You're gonna have to show your wife Jordan this, and just to see her thoughts on it, if she liked it or anything.
I'll put her review up on Discord or something.
There we go. So join the Discord server for RetroZap. Discord.animaniacast.com, and at some point Nathan will put down her thoughts about what she thought.
We'll add it as a Patreon or something.
Yeah, right. Okay. Well, anyway, Kelly, any last things that you thought were of note here in the Brain Hamlet thing?
No, I think I said them all.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and get to our Water Tower rating. Okay, what do you guys think? Out of 5 water towers, how many would you give today's episode? Nathan, let's start with you.
Oh boy. Okay. I guess I'll say 4.
Alrighty.
I really enjoyed it. I think I can't say anything bad about it. So yeah, I'll say 4.
All right.
It wasn't the most compelling episode, but it was good enough to be a 4.
All right. And Kelly, what about you?
I'm going to go with 5. I thought both segments were really strong, and the writing was just very, very clever.
All right. And I will give it a 4. I thought it was written really well. I just think that, I don't know, somehow the pacing of at least the first segment, the Brainie the Pooh one, it got a little slow around the Algore parts, and I don't know if it's just Algore that slowed it down.
It's supposed to do that.
Maybe it's supposed to, but it just had too much of an effect on me, I suppose. But it's still a very good, very, very good episode of Pinky and the Brain, and written really well. And it's one of those that, I watched it the first time, and I laughed. I really liked it. And then I watched it the second time and really paused and looked closely at the dialogue and the background and all the different elements of it, and really got even more out of it. So definitely a very solid episode, and I could see why people like it a lot. So
yeah,
thank you to the audience members who recommended this, because I enjoyed it quite a bit. Thank you. Well, speaking of audience members, let's go ahead and get to an Apple Podcast review. And Nathan hit us with the Animaniacast Apple Podcast review theme song.
If you only knew the Apple Podcast review, you would hear it right now on the show, and that's how you know the Apple review for the podcast of the show. What?
There we go. Yay!
I forgot what
Well, I don't know. You wrote the whole song down like last week.
I know. I'm reading it off this paper, but I can't read my own handwriting. It's just...
Well, this is a 5-star review, and it just says, yes, yes, yes. And this is by Nightmare King NWO, so he must be a wrestling fan. So he says, love this show. Do Tiny Toons, please, and Pinky and the Brain, and Pinky and the Brain and Elmira. You should do Acme TV from season 2 of Tiny Toons. So there you go. He just loves. He wants to hear more and more and more. And he must be listening to just our some of our Animaniacs episodes, because I don't think he realizes, yes, we are talking about Pinky and the Brain.
He'll get there.
He will. But, he's enjoying the show, and thank you so much, Nightmare King NWO, a very intimidating name, But we're glad you're enjoying the show. And if you want to leave an Apple Podcast review, you go, hey, rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, and we might just read your review on the air. Ooh. If that's not an incentive, I don't know what is. Well, let's go ahead and wrap things up for today's episode. Nathan, where can people find you online?
Well, Twitter is a perfectly fine place to find me, and you can find me at JangoFT. That's me.
All right, and Kelly, what about you?
I'm on Twitter, Yoda Princess, YODAPRNCSS, or email me, Kelly, at BigShinyRobot.com.
All right, and as for the Animaniacast, we're on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. And of course, you can also talk to us over on our RetroZap Discord server. You get a welcome link by going to discord.animaniacast.com. And then you can talk to us about recent episodes or just Animaniacs or animation or whatever. But then you could go into the other sections for RetroZap and talk to the other podcast hosts, or talk to them about Star Wars or pop culture or Marvel stuff, or really anything you want to. It's all there at the RetroZap Discord server. And of course, RetroZap.com is the place to be whenever you're looking for podcasts or articles or whatever you like about pop culture. It's probably on over there. New content hitting the website every single day. You got to check it out. One last thing. If you like our show and you want to support it, you can check out TeePublic, teepublic.animaniacast.com. There are shirts not only of Animaniacs, Pinky and the Brain, Freakazoid, but also some designs that, well, we just really like, including a Sequest shirt that Kelly has herself. And she showed it off, and Rufio really liked it recently.
Yes.
So.
And I love the shirt. It's super soft. I bought the super soft one.
TeePublic really does have incredibly good quality of their designs, and any shirts that you buy, or even stickers, or by the way, they're stickers. Nathan, you've put them on your water bottles and stuff, and run them. Yeah,
they last longer than my water bottles do.
Exactly.
I end up losing my water bottles, but put them through the washing machines, and dishwasher, and everything.
It's quality merchandise, and one of the best things is you not only help give a little support to the artist who actually made that design, but a few pennies go to the Animaniacast as well, and that helps us cover costs every month for putting out this wonderful podcast to you each and every month. Well, let's go ahead and wrap things up. So for Nathan and Kelly, this is Joey saying good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
This podcast is not endorsed by Warner Brothers or Amblin Entertainment and is intended for entertainment and information purposes only. Animaniacs, Tiny Toon Adventures, Freakazoid, the Warner Brothers logo, all names, pictures, and sounds are registered trademarks and or copyrights of their respective trademark and copyright holders. All original content of this podcast is the intellectual property of the Animanicast unless otherwise indicated.
The hour grows late, Ghost. Get thee to the point.
Methinks thou, thine, you... I'm the ghost of your father. Your uncle killed me and I want you to get revenge, okay?